So in this video, I want to show you yet another way that you can engage with learning in a topic. You can do so by completing the study guide along with the presentations that I have in my resources. Now you can find my resources from this folder right here, Biology Conceptual Resources. But then when you open that, there's lots of options to pick from. And so it's kind of hard to find the folder that you really need to if you go this way, if you don't really know what topics are in the year. Now, if you know which unit you're looking for example, say I was looking for parts of the cell, I could go to cytology, then I can find the same stuff that I'm talking about here. It's going to look like this inside. And then you can look at the presentation folder or the study guide folder to find what you actually need. So I'm going to go ahead and open the presentation folder here, and on a separate tab, I'm going to open the study guide folder. And I do try to do it that way, and I'll show you why. Because you want to open both the study guide and the presentation at the same time if you're doing it this way. But I also wanted to show you that if you go to the top of every lesson, right, every unit will have a link that says standard resources and extra practice. And if you open that link, at the very top, there will usually be under key resources a direct link to the presentations, notes, and study guide. Now the notes are really cool too. When you look at the notes, it's basically like if somebody had already taken the notes from the textbook for you, that's what they would look like, right? So, and that's pretty useful. I'll go ahead and open these notes as well, and you can find them uh, within the notes folder of the topic. So if you go inside the folder, you can find a folder that's called notes, and that's where you would find those as well. But like I showed you, usually they are directly linked at the very top of the resources within the standards resources and practice document within each unit. But here I have the presentation folder open, and there's usually lots of different presentations. A lot of them come from the textbooks that I've used in the past. They go along with the textbook, which is kind of cool. But there is always one that has the name that matches the name of the topic. That's the one that's the main topic presentation. So if you open that, and you also open within the study guide folder, there's sometimes a lecture guide or a list of key terms. Now, those are always good. And the lecture guide kind of goes along with the videos that I record for the series. So that's what those are. But if you, and I'll show you, I'll talk about that in a different video, how to use video tutorials to learn. But right now I'm showing you how to use a study guide. So again, there should be a study guide within the study guides documents that has a name that matches the topic. So when you click on that, you will open that study guide. And here we have an example of those notes that I was talking about. So it's just basically someone already took notes from you on what the textbook would have said, right? So it's basically outlined notes on the topic. So the outline of all the main important things that are covered in the topic. So someone already took notes for you. That's what these notes are, and they're always there, always available for you. If you want to look at them instead or in addition to the textbook, you can. Now, as notes usually are, they explain less, right? These are just the key points. So the textbook gets into detail, so do the videos. These are just the key points that you would have extracted from those sources, right? So if you want notes already taken for you, that's what these are. And I sometimes look at those as well. But I really want to show you how the presentation goes along with the study guide. So for that, I'm actually going to pull them side by side. And you can always just drag a window to the side of your screen and then let go. And that will actually split it like that. So here you see on the right side a study guide. And you can see that there's questions. Like, for example, the first question is list the main characteristics of living things. Then if you go through the presentation, you'll see, look at there, the main characteristics of living things. There's all 8 characteristics of life. Then it says, write the levels of organization, living and non-living, in order, beginning with subatomic particles. And so there we go, levels of organization. These are the non-living ones, beginning with subatomic particles. And then they have some pictures to demonstrate that. And then they do the levels of organization of the living parts. It's pretty cool. Then it says, list the 4 non-living levels of life in order from simplest to most complex. So here's the non-living levels, right? Uh, what are the smallest basic unit of life? Well, the cell. is the small basic unit of life. What I want you to see though is that as you go through the presentation, it literally goes along with the study guide. So you would have this study guide on up and then on a separate sheet of paper, or you can open a new document and then type up your answers in that document. You actually want to have a study guide that has questions only that you can use. Although you can always just re-download the one that's in my resources if you need to do that. The reason for that is that you can then use the study guide to self quiz, and I have a different video that talks about how to use how to self quiz and using Cornell notes or flashcards or other types of things. And one of the things you can do is just have this list, and then you can check off as you get the questions right. If you don't get it right, you put a negative sign. If you get it right, you put a plus sign. And then when you keep trying the negative ones until everything is right, and then once everything is positive, you put it away, come back to it another time, and try them again. And if they're still right, you turn them into check marks or stars. And if they're wrong, you demote them back to negative, start the process again until all the words are, or all the questions, you are able to answer them without help. But what I would do if I was trying to fill the study guide is actually make a copy of it, and for myself. Maybe you name it something that you're actually going to use. You put your name next to it, and then once you have a copy of that document, you can literally fill it out yourself in a separate sheet thing. And then this could be the way that you study. So instead of looking at the textbook, instead of watching a video, instead of doing conceptual practice workbooks, you can just study with the presentation along with the study guide. So it's like you're teaching it yourself as you're going through the presentation. And then what I would do is as I'm going through the study guide, right? By the way, notice that when I hit enter here, the it added a new number. So you have to delete that number if you want to use it as a study list and make sure it matches after the fact. So be careful with that. I like to change the color when I'm trying to put my answers, right? So listing the main characteristics of living things. Okay, so let's go over here. All right. So we have cells, energy, repro- reproduction, homeostasis, order or organization. It has response to environment. We have growth and development, and we have exchange of materials. So I would also add evolution to that list. I have need to update these slides here because definitely should be one of the characteristics of life. There you go. That's the way people usually set it up, where energy and exchange of materials is combined as one characteristic of life. So requiring energy and materials from its environment, and then you have evolution. So either way, I answer the questions, then I go to the next one, levels of organization. And again, when I hit enter, it changes the number. So I delete that number so that it stays along with my example. And I go subatomic particles, the atom, the molecule, organelles, and I have to go all the way to the living levels as well. So I put cells, tissues, organ systems, and an organism. So there you go. I have my answer. I like to change the color of it. So there you go. And as you go through it, this is exactly what you do. And it's pretty straightforward because it goes in order, uh, basically the same order as you're going through the things. So these are the non-living levels, right? Atoms, molecules, organelles. So I'm just going to copy from here the non-living levels. At what level does life begin? So the next slide says organization of life of life. So it starts at the cell, right? The cell is the first cellular level. Right. Now, I'm not going to go through the entire lesson like this, but it's pretty straightforward. And although when you first open a study guide, it can look pretty intimidating because of how many questions there are in the topic, right? This one has 200 and some questions. And it might seem like a lot, but we will spend 2 or 3 class days in a topic like this. And And if you take like maybe 30 seconds or even a minute to answer each question, you should be able to get done with most of the questions like this. So you should still be able to take notes and go through it this way if you want to, or you prefer to. And it's no less or more effort than working with the textbook or watching videos and taking notes from that, or working on the conceptual practice workbooks or some other method of accessing the content. But I would like to give you guys choices. And this is definitely another choice that you have available to you. You can use your uh, presentation along with the study guide. And then once you have the study guide, you can actually use it as a study tool. And then don't forget, you also have those awesome notes, right? Those notes that we showed before. That also is a great resource. And this is, again, usually linked at the very, very top of any topic that has a presentation and study guide uh, um, that go along together. And I will also sometimes include some other key resources like handouts, which you will find in a notes and handouts folder that I also really like. I will put them up here as well on the key resources part of this document. And you can always find these resources directly, like I showed you, by navigating to the folders through the Schoology page where it says biology conceptual resources. But it's a little easier to go through the main resource document at the top of every unit because it's already organized and it points directly to it. So there you go. But if you want even more resources, finding it through here is kind of cool as well because it will open the notes and presentations folder directly for you. And a link to that unit file direct folder is also at the bottom of the resource folder. So if I click on that, right, it will go directly to the part of the my unit files that has all the resources, all the notes and handouts, all the podcasts that I like the most, all the presentations, etc. Right? But anyways, this is another way you can access the content by completing the study guide along with the presentation. I hope you use it, and I hope you find this helpful.